I am the true alpha male, the living legend of hair loss, and your personal hairline hero. Let's get to work. Let's see if this is going to be a fun video or not. I never know. All this channel is me reading comments from my phone. Imagine that. Imagine making $500 a month off of reading comments that show up on your phone. Imagine if you could just do the same with a Facebook feed. Like, you say something and then you just read comments and then you make a video. This is kind of that way. Here we go. I made a video called Going Bald Young Woke Me Up, which obviously were not my words. That was the words of a viewer, Andrew Moss. Man, a main character. You know, this is no guest star. Andrew Moss, been watching me for a long time. And I want to shout out to Andrew. Something else I appreciate about you is that you appreciate when I have my songs on here. I'm a songwriter, I'm a singer. You actually watch those videos. Thank you. Because I've said it before, no one really cares about Nick Shell. They care about the entertainment aspect of what I do. This whole fake hair loss psychology thing, which is not my heart. My heart is my music. So thank you for supporting that. It really does mean a lot. That's a way that I feel a little bit more human and less of the cartoon character I played in this role that I'm on this channel. All right, here we go. His comment says, quote, "There's plenty of married men who still obsess about their hair to the point they end up getting a hair transplant." True. So it is not just something young virgin men are losing sleep over. True. And that comment got 4 thumbs up. So, and I like this comment. It's very relevant and it's very true. Now, granted, if you've watched one of my videos, you know that ultimately it's all a matter of philosophy. And we know we're 2 minutes in, you already know what I'm going to say. So go ahead and in your mind internalize how I'm going to respond to this. Got it? Okay, now I'm going to say exactly what you predicted that I'm going to say. I'm not just you, Andrew, everybody watching this video. I'm so predictable. Because this is my comment, I responded, so again, let me read his comment. "There's plenty of married men who still obsess about their hair to the point that they end up getting a hair transplant. So it is not just something young virgin men are losing their sleep over." I responded saying, quote, "True. Plenty of beta men who do not know how to emotionally care for their wives because they are too focused on themselves," end quote. And somebody like that, at least one person like that. This is so important. This is so important. When we look at the beta men who've become Peter Pans, they're in their 30s and they're still focused on their looks. They're poor examples for my viewers. And it's funny because those same men see me as a poor example to our young impressionable viewers. And that's why I'm arch nemesis, if that's the word, with these viewers who are in their 30s, still defending hair transplants, still defending popping pills. It's weak-mindedness. But it is true that there are married men, regardless of the age, that are still so focused on themselves that they do get hair transplants. And this takes me back to a couple years ago when there was a couple times where I had my wife as a guest star on these videos and ultimately asking her, you know, how would she feel if I got a hair transplant? I've made at least one video like that where she was in it. So look it up if you want to. And her response was, if it really meant that much to me to do it, then do it. To which I responded and said, thank you, but I don't need to do that. I don't need to do that to feel confident in myself. For me, now granted, am I perfect? Obviously not. One part of my identity is knowing how imperfect that I am. And I also know there's no perfect marriage and no perfect relationship and that sort of thing. But I think it does say something that my wife and I have been married nearly 12 years. It says something that I knew how to attract someone as intelligent and attractive as she is, and also be able to keep her interested in me. Okay? So much of my character arc went from me being a beta. I'm telling you straight up, I was straight up beta when we got married. Being married to her turned me into this, turned me into a strong-minded man who doesn't allow other people's opinions to affect how he feels about himself. I don't allow myself to be offended by what other people say. No, ultimately, and I'm giving her credit, being married to her made me this way because it forced me to take the attention off of myself and put it on caring for her. And I'm not saying that in a way that she's petty and what do you want to? No, it's a matter of when you are a married man, especially when you have kids like we do, it's not about you. It's about everybody else. You're caring for them emotionally, psychologically, not just physically. You're caring for someone else's emotional needs. So what I say is, if there's a married man who's so focused on his own insecurity, especially if he's naive to think that his insecurity about his hair has anything to do with his wife being attracted to him, that's dangerous territory. Because ultimately, when it comes to which wives actually cheat on their husbands, I made a video about this recently. It's not that they're cheating because of their looks. It's because you can't emotionally support them, which is why I'm so focused on helping my young viewers not to become Peter Pans, to change their way of thinking. See, immature guys get caught up in thinking that an alpha male is a certain look. No, it's a certain way that you think. So ultimately, to attract a woman that you want, who is intelligent and is going to be able to care for you, you have to be able to care for her. You have to realize there's not enough time and space for us to worry about a man's hair. It's not going to work for the marriage. It's not going to work for the household. It's not going to work for the family. She needs someone who's stronger minded than a man who needs a hair transplant to feel confident in himself. I'm just glad that that's not me. I'm glad it's not me that needs a hair transplant to feel good about myself, because I would feel my wife wouldn't respect me if that was me. I mean, she'd let me, but I think on some level, it would be harder for her to respect a guy who is so into his looks that he says, you know what? I know we make decent money in our household, but ultimately, let me take off a few days from work. Let me spend a couple $1,000s on this now, and then if it gets worse later, a couple more thousand. No, I know that ultimately, that's not. Would she put up with that? Okay, but I know that for me, it's about being a leader, and a leader doesn't put his own needs first. And the fact that that would be a need, a grown man who's already married, having a need to have a certain look, like that just seems so petty. Like, I would be so embarrassed to have a hair transplant. I would not be embarrassed at all to be bald. That's normal and natural. But I would be so embarrassed to have a hair transplant. Like, just getting into the mindset of an alpha here, a strong-minded man, a confident man. Imagine that. Imagine that there are men who are so insecure about themselves that they want a hair transplant even though they're already married. Meanwhile, there's Nick Shell, the true alpha male, who says, ironically, the only way you can get me to be insecure about my looks is to force a hair transplant on me. If I was forced to have a hair transplant, or even if I chose that in any degree, that would make me feel insecure because it would feel fake. It would feel needy. It would feel like a confidence crutch. I'm an alpha male. I don't need a confidence crutch. To me, it's purely pathetic. That's how I feel. Now, let other beta men do whatever they want to. That's fine. That's them. But for me personally, this is how I feel. I would feel so embarrassed about myself if I had a hair transplant and anyone knew, which they would probably figure it out at some point. It would get out. And then I would be the man who needed a hair transplant to be confident in himself. Whereas all the other men around me that go bald embrace it and shave off their hair and seem that much more confident because of it, I would be that guy who had a beautiful wife and a great home life, yet he needed a hair transplant. How petty. There's nothing strong-minded about that. Don't get so caught up in when I say alpha male, I'm saying strong, independently minded is what I'm saying. It is a pure attack on my identity, the thought of getting a hair transplant. Ugh, no thanks. Not for me. For other people, yes. Blessings upon them. I would be so embarrassed to have a hair transplant. It's too weak-minded. Your comments are right here.